Jewish identity, the Jewish religion, because clearly the state of Israel and the neocons are deeply motivated by that ethnic identity, and their allegiance to Israel proceeds from that. The plan of greater Israel.
This is where I have to cringe, I have no doubt that they associate themselves and they identify themselves like that, but we have to remember also, and not just also, but primally, is the economy of capitalism that created the state of Israel. The reason that Zionism gained a foothold in the 20th century was because of the political economy in which it was operating out of, and the historical, progress of settler colonialism for the past 400 years. These are, no one event is divorced or vacuous of other events. Everything is connected. You can't separate Zionism from settler colonialism. And just because somebody's a Jewish supremacist doesn't mean that other Jewish supremacists are going to go develop a settler colony. It takes institutional backing. It takes, the historical development of settler colonialism and the emergence of a preeminent world superpower that can colonize lands far distant from its native shores to get that done. That you don't see Bill Ackman teaming up with some poor person that's just happens to be a Jewish supremacist. I mean, it's the billionaire class, it's you must be this tall to ride the ride of capitalism and imperial capitalism at that. So I reject the way that he's trying to frame geopolitics based on religion, based on religious affinity. It's a resource war. That's why wars are fought, Economic systems drive military and political events, not religious ideologies. Religious ideologies serve as a superstructure. As part of the superstructure, they serve as justification for what is economically profitable.
The blood and soil nationalism of Israel, it stems from this ethno-religion, which is Judaism.
Well, this is, just BLM, the new version. This is identity politics. They're engaging in identity politics. I mean, that's just so obvious to me. But the problem in your response, I get what you're saying, but the problem in your response is it does not apply to every individual.
No, and I would never say that.
Okay. Well, I just think it's important to say that, not to kind of like dodge the accusations against you. My best friends are Jewish.
It's about right. It's the certain individuals who might be Jewish supremacists. Maybe they're just Christian Zionists, but they have a lot of money.
I agree. Embarrassing, even though it's probably true. And it's true in my case, actually. But whatever. But because just that principle that we're all judged as individuals by what we do, that our faith, the decisions that we make, the way we live our lives, and God will judge every one of us in that way. And that's how we're supposed to judge. I think that's true.
Yeah, and I totally agree. But I guess the disagreement is you say identity politics like it's a bad thing. I think identity is a reality.
Identity is a reality. Absolutely. You just can't have a country of 350 million that's diverse where it's just like warring ethnicities, because then it's Rwanda soon. And, the people with the most force just kill the others. So can't have that here. Right?
Yeah. But I would say specifically as it pertains to, you, I think, have said it's the neocons. And I think that neoconservatism, where does it arise from? It arises from Jewish leftists who were mugged by reality when they saw the surprise attack in the Yom Kippur War.
What? That might be we hit it. We hit peak ludicrousness, peak brain rot here. What the did he just say? He said the neocons, the overarching unifying factor is Jewish leftists who were butthurt over the Yom Kippur War. What? Let's go back.
Here, right?
Yeah, but I would say specifically as it pertains to, you, I think, have said it's the neocons. And I think that neoconservatism, where does it arise from? It arises from Jewish leftists who were mugged by reality when they saw the surprise attack in the Yom Kippur War.
Yeah, that's a lot of it for sure. But then, how do you explain Huckabee?
Neoconservatism, is he trying to say that neoconservatism arose as a reaction to Jewish leftists who were mugged by reality when they saw the surprise attack from the Yom Kippur War?
Ted Cruz, and there are a lot like that, John.
I really do not follow that.
Bolton, I've known them all. George W. Bush, Karl Rove. All people I know personally who I have seen be seized by this brain virus, and they're not Jewish. Most of them are self-described Christians, and then
the brain virus of Zionism?
The Christian Zionists who are, Christian Zionists. What is that?
Right.
And I could just say for myself, I dislike them more than anybody, because what? Because it's Christian heresy and I'm offended by that as a Christian. That's why. So I don't, why not? I'm pissed at the neocons, very pissed. I've said that a million times. I've been mad since December of 2003 when I went to Iraq. And so like I went and asked straightforward questions to Ted Cruz because that seemed like there's a sitting senator who's like serving for Israel by his own description. He seemed like a worthy target. I'm not going after MTG, who's like the most sincere like why not go after Ted Cruz? I don't understand.
Well, again, with Marjorie, I was a friend of hers and she spoke at my conference, and then the day after she pretended like she didn't know me. And that was in 2022.
But it's a continuum. Like you said yourself, you showed up in college, like one set of views, they evolve as you interact with reality, as the reality itself changes, as like you learn things, you grow, like whatever, people change.
Well, and look, now that everyone agrees with me, I will graciously forgive them for being
But why
so
make
hostile.
it personal? Like who cares?
It's not personal for me. Like with Marjorie, if she wanted to be aligned or whatever, I would totally be on board with her.
But where do you disagree with her?
I don't know, because I don't know what her new views are. She's really only come around on Israel this year, and I've been talking about this issue for 10 years. And
Right, okay, all right, you win. But like,
no, but it's not like
isn't
that.
it-
It's just, it's a little, it feels like BS to me that, and I said this on Twitter the other day, it's like I got treated like I didn't exist.
Right, I get
and
it.
canceled for 10 years for saying these things. And that's really where all this drama comes from. A time when there was this intense censorship and nobody was on board with this stuff. Like, again, Marjorie, she fired, one of my people was working in her office. She fired that guy because someone
Nick has got eternal victim syndrome.
found out that a Groyper was working in her office. And, that guy got his life ruined. And she pretended like she didn't know me and lied and said, I had no idea the conference I was speaking at. She knew exactly what it was. And that's fine. But now that she's on the same page, there's like this expectation, hey, well, why did you have a problem with her in the past? It's like, because she was on the other team in the past.
Yeah, well, so was everybody.
Yeah,
I mean,
so now
so are you.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
so what? I mean, what? Why not? It's got to be bigger than just like us, right? And it's not, I'll speak for myself. I don't feel like I'm at war with the neocons or Israel. It's much bigger than that. It's like you want to restore America to a place where your grandchildren would enjoy growing up. That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and as far as
So
Marjorie,
it's not, who cares? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
okay, lots of people hurt if Dave Rubin called me tonight, which he would never do, though he has my cell, and said, I'm really sorry I called you Hitler. Like, I didn't mean it. You're raising lots of legitimate questions, which I think I sort of agree with, or I'm thinking about in a deeper way. I'd be like, great.
yeah.
Like, I don't care.
And look, Tucker, that's why I'm sitting here,
Right.
I mean, because we had a contentious dialogue.
Well, I
for a
thought you
long
were a
time.
Fed.
And I thought you were a Fed.
I was a Fed.
Yeah.
I'm not a Fed. But whatever, I don't care what people
Yeah, we
think.
showed each other a badge as we know well.
No, but I thought you were a Fed because I was like, why not? It's not cucking to say you're not talking about all Jews when you oppose a foreign policy position. It's not. There's nothing liberal about that. It's just true. That's the Christian position, okay? And two, why are you attacking like the best people and not the worst people?
Well, yeah, I mean, again, he disavowed me for my views on Israel and said I talk too much about white people and Christianity. And to me,
Right.
that's like a sincere ideological disagreement.
I get it.
And, same thing with Marjorie. Marjorie fired my guy. She disavowed me. And, and you worked with Blumenthal on that article, but you called me on the phone and we talked.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, from my perspective, I mean, this is also stupid and inside baseball and whatever, but for the record, I was like, first of all, who is this kid? I'm working at Fox News. I'm aware there's an internet, but I'm more out of it than you may appreciate. And I'm like, out of nowhere, attacking this. I had Joe Kent to my house and did this interview with him. And I'm always in search of a sincere politician. Don't have to agree on everything, but I really believe sincerity is the whole game. If someone's heart is pure, he will be brave. I always have thought that. And it's turned out to be true. Marjorie's a perfect example. And that's all that matters. If you're afraid inside, if you're weak inside, you will crumble when it matters. So I really felt like, wow, Joe, don't agree with him on everything, of course, but I was like, this guy is really sincere. He's like a good person. And then you show up and you're like, he's a CIA officer and he was a CIA contractor, but like really like crush the guy. And it's like, why of all people, you agree on 90% of stuff, that was my view. And I was like, well, clearly this kid's a Fed.
Right. But you didn't know the whole story.
I did. You're absolutely right.
And look, and now that, and I want to be, I'm not trying to be combative. I think
Go ahead. You're hurting my feelings.
No, I mean, here's what I'm trying to say is now that Marjorie is pushing in the right direction, I absolutely support everything she's saying. And I've not been critical of her at all this year because I think that what she's doing is extremely courageous. And I think you're right. She is sincere.
So it sounds like not to put words in your mouth, but your life experience has left you so stung by the Republican establishment. You don't trust anybody, it sounds like.
Well, no, I mean, these people attacked me when the rules were different and now they got better. And now I'm good with them. I mean, I'm willing to be good with them, but I think that I don't know if Marjorie still has a problem with me or not.
I don't know.
Yeah, like, I don't know if you could just like, maybe like ask her, like just tell her Nick said hello. I mean, I don't know if you heard, I mean, it's not like I think about it really, but like, have you heard anything?
Do you know though, and this is the last criticism I will level, and it's maybe not even your fault, but I do know that, the coordinated attacks against totally reasonable questions about what's in America's interest and what's not, those are all coordinated by the Israeli government. It's all come to light now. And they're against me. I've always thought I have the world's most moderate position on Israel. Don't hate Israel. don't want to get involved in their wars, don't want to pay for this, don't want to pay for abortion on demand in a foreign country, sorry. When we're cutting food stamps on our own, like, this is outrageous. It's not America first. That's my view, not embarrassed of it at all. They are totally determined to take me out, I think because I'm reasonable. Who would disagree with that? And call me all these names, the most dangerous anti-Semite. I'm not even an anti-Semite. And they're not doing that to you because, this is my view, and this is not necessarily your fault, but because they're like, Fuentes discredits the reasonable people because he's always banging on about the Jews. And so he makes everyone else look like a Nazi. And so it's like he's playing a pretty valuable role in the same way that Israel's always funded extremism throughout the Middle East, including Hamas, because it discredits the reasonable people. That's a fact.
Yeah. I would just say I disagree. I mean, because you said the other day, they like me. I don't know what you're talking about when you say that because,
I don't know.
Let me just kind of rebut that.
But by the way, I'm not saying you have anything to do with this. I'm just saying I've noticed the phenomenon.
Totally. And I just reject that because they have been messing with me for my entire adult life. I mean, the ADL got me banned on YouTube. The SPLC posted my house on their website.
What do you mean posted your house?
They posted a photo of my house on their website.
How can they do that?
I guess that's a free speech thing.
The SPLC posted a picture of your house on their website?
Yes.
When?
In 2022.
Actually?
Yes, they wrote an article. They said Nick Fuentes bought a building in this city.
Nick, you live in a house? Bourgeois decadence is this?
And they said we interviewed his neighbors and property records
Has a house and he's still complaining.
reveal this and that. And on the front page, the picture for the article is my house where I live.
That's crazy. And then someone showed up with a gun and tried to kill you at that house?
Yes. So that's why I say, you say, well, they're not doing this to you. It's like the ZOA, the SPLC, the ADL, the Daily Wire. All these groups have been on me for years. So that's news to me if they're really endorsing my activities.
It could just be my perception. But I guess what I'm saying is, as someone who thinks his own views are like completely reasonable, pass every smell test, you could x-ray my soul. I don't think there's a lot of hate in there. And to the extent that they do make me feel hateful, the people who attack me, I do like say prayers about it. We're not allowed to hate people. As we forgive those who trespass against us. That's like our core prayer. So I just feel like it's I don't know. Am I being paranoid? I feel like going on about the Jews like helps the neocons. That's
what about my views do you think are unreasonable if yours are reasonable?
I think, again, I don't think it's cucky. I think it's reality to say that guilt is not inherited. Blood guilt is bad. One of the reasons that I'm mad about Gaza is because the Israeli position is everyone who lives in Gaza is a terrorist because of how they were born, including the women and the children. That's not a Western view. Eastern view. That's a non-Christian. That's totally incompatible with Christianity and Western civilization. And they say, we're the defenders of Western civilization. Not with that attitude. Collective punishment is the enemy of Western civilization.
Yeah.
Batty
and
core,
so I hate that attitude. It's genocidal.
Batty core.
The current claims that I'm a cancer, from Ben Shapiro, where we need to be excised from the body of conservatism is a genocidal position that it basically encourages violence, as they well know.
I think Batty is just realizing how cameras work.
The whole thing I hate. So like anytime you say a whole group of people is responsible for the sins of some of its members, like I'm out.
Yeah, but that's not my view.
It's not. Okay. So so tell me your views. Like rather than, you're one of those people, one of the reasons I wanted to meet you is you're one of those people who is defined by clips.
Yes.
And I'm one of those people also.
Yes.
When he says cucky, it's like a 55-year-old Tucker Carlson's trying to relate to Gen Z. I'm not being cucky. He's just like, he's trying to use the word, but he's not using it correctly.
Yes.
Right. So I get it. So I'm going to just shut up and you tell me what you actually believe.
Yeah. Well, and listen, I mean, and I appreciate you saying that because that's just a reality of the media environment we're in. Okay. So I don't expect you to know all my views, but I mean, as far as the Jews are concerned, I think that,
but like as far as the Jews are concerned, it's been pretty spot on.
You cannot actually divorce Israel and the neocons and all of those things that you talk about from Jewishness, ethnicity, religion, identity. And let me give you like a perfect example. So you say on
Tucker's really trying to give him, he's like, look, just don't scapegoat the Jews. I'm going to let you just explain, but like, I really, as a Christian, I don't vibe with that, okay? Because clearly it's not all and people should be judged on an individual basis. He's like, oh, of course. Now let me go ahead and explain. He's like, you can't really separate anything from Jewishness. It's just Jewishness. He's like, let me go ahead and just disappoint you right now.
In your show that we need to treat Israel like any other country. And I sort of understand that in principle because Israel is another foreign country.
Yeah.
But Israel is unlike every other country in the sense that because the Jewish people are in the diaspora all over the world, there are significant numbers of Jews in Europe, but also in the United States. And because of their unique heritage and story, which is that they're a stateless people, they're unassimilable, they resist assimilation for thousands of years. And I think that's a good thing. And now they have this territory in Israel. There's a deep religious affection for the state. It's bound up in their identity, the story of the Exodus from Egypt, the promise of the land, all these things. So let's say in the United States.
After this, Nick Fuentes is going to then say that all Germans, there's just something about, the Nazis There was just a Germanness to it, and you can't escape that, okay? Underlying underneath the ideology was really just Germans, German people, the Germanic tribe, okay? And that's really what it boils down to, okay?
States, for example, somebody like a Sheldon Adelson, he's not Israeli. Is he an ideological neocon? Does he believe in the promise of democratic globalism? I don't think that's...
Yeah, Sheldon Adelson is a billionaire, okay? He lobbies the government. You know, this is he's dead now and his wife does it now, but you know, they're transnational billionaires, dude. I mean, and it's always a mainstay. It's always a eternal talking point for these cultural demagogues to never acknowledge these nefarious players on the world stage by their economic position, not their cultural preferences or their personal characteristics, what religion they celebrate. You know, and that's the thing that really gets me, is that they will never acknowledge the economy. Why do we know that name, Sheldon Adelson? Is it because he's a Jewish supremacist? No, it's because he's a billionaire and he's able to lobby the government to further his own economic and political agenda. And that's the point. How did he get his wealth? How do these people get their wealth? Because of their ability to accrue monopolies in the age of imperial capitalism.
Necessarily, his heart is in Israel. And it's because he is a proud Jewish person. And I guess what I'm saying is that if you are
because he's a billionaire, you dumb
Jewish person in America, you're sort of, and again, it's not because they're born, but it's sort of a rational self-interest politically to say, I'm a minority. I'm a religious ethnic minority. This is not really my home. My ancestral home is in Israel.
Mogul.
There's like a natural affinity that Jews have for Israel. And I would say on top of that, for the international Jewish community. They're extremely organized. Many of them are critical of Israel or Israel's current government or the project of Israel.
But I guess because of the privatization of wealth and public resources. That's literally what it's about. If that economic policy will produce crimes against humanity.
Have in common, unlike, let's say, like Singapore, for example, is that they have this international community across borders, extremely organized, that is putting the interests of themselves before the interests of their home country. And there's no other country that has a similar arrangement like that.
Yeah, I mean, great point. Singling out someone that's in the 0.01% of the economic scale in global society and singling them out based on their Jewishness rather than their economic position. That's the silliness of it.
Like that. No other country has a strong identity like that. This religious blood and soil conviction, this history of being in the diaspora, stateless, wandering, persecuted. And in particular, the historic animosity between the Jewish people and the Europeans.
He's just sifting on the surface of the cultural cesspool.
They hate the Romans because the Romans destroyed the temple. That's why Eric Weinstein goes to the Arch of Titus and gives it the finger and takes a picture. We don't think like that as Americans and white people. We don't think about the Roman Empire in 2,000 years ago. They do. And so I guess that's really, and I don't think that's me saying the Jews. I don't think that's me being hateful. I don't think that's me being collectivist. I think that's understanding that identity politics, whether you love it or hate it, whatever you feel about it, it's a reality that we live in a world of Jews and Christians, of whites and blacks. These identities mean something to us and they mean things to each other, and we can't sort of wish them away. And it feels like white people and Christians...
But curiously, the role and the identity of capitalists and workers doesn't mean anything to Nick Fuentes. And yet that's the most primal identity, the most substantial, significant, foundational identity that you can have in a society, because a society would not exist without an economy. And our relationship to the economy it predates all other relationships. That's why when the first question that people ask, who are you, is what you do. What you do is what you are and who you are. That's the identity that you take on. What is Nick Fuentes? How do we know Nick Fuentes? Do we know Nick Fuentes because he's a Christian, or do we know him because he is a political commentator? What is his functional role in society? How does he earn a living? That is the identity that supersedes and supplants all other subsequent forms of identities, including your religious identity. But he will never talk about that. And that is really sus. It's the most glaring, obvious thing that we could talk. It's the principal contradiction in our society that is full of and rampant with all kinds of secondary contradictions within contradictions upon contradictions upon contradictions. But the most primal, most significant one he will never discuss, he will never acknowledge. It's a tacit assumption. It's not even talked about. about. It's axiomatic.
Are the only ones that do that.
There's no question about that, your last point, for sure. One of the reasons they do that is because they've been taught to hate themselves, of course.
That's why all this shit is just nonsense. It's just, like I said, this is one long wind tunnel. It's all this is. They're never going to tell you the truth.
Since the Second World War, another reason is,
They're
however,
both agents playing the same game, the same grift.
the reality of a multi-ethnic country requires you to sort of set aside community or group interests in favor of corporate interests, universal interests, national interests. And you have to do that or else it doesn't work. And so, I agree those attitudes. I mean, certainly in other parts of the world, people think this way, but you can't have that here. And so it's just important to remind everybody that, things may be generally true, but again, they're not always true. And there are people who just strongly disagree. And by the way, in the specific case of Israel, there are a ton of Orthodox who I know who are opposed to the state of Israel. They're more Jewish than Dave Rubin, a lot more, and yet they oppose it. Jeff Sachs is the most.
There's degrees to your Jewishness. Did you notice that? There's so many different ways to be Jewish, I've learned. And there's a percentage of Jewishness that you can be. And certainly there are people that are more than other people.
Are a wonderful man, the most Jewish and most articulate kind of critic of the state of Israel that I'm aware of. So I don't know. That's just...
Candace Owens is absolutely no different. Same with Charlie Kirk. I mean, every big name that you ever hear about and ever know all play the same game. And that's why they're so big. That's why they have such a big audience. The capitalist class, however you want to think of it, the people that have institutional control and institutional leverage over our lives and who can commandeer the state, who can lobby the government to push through legislation that is both economic and, cultural. These are the people that fund these commentators. This is how they get donors. You got to speak pleasantly to the king. You have to flatter the king if you want to receive his good graces, right? These are flatterers of the court. That's why they're popular. That's why they're well known. And, just to take an example that just occurred to me, Charlie Kirk. I mean, what was he complaining about in the days preceding his death? He was losing money. He was losing his backing. He was losing millions of dollars in donations from Zionist billionaires who were upset with him for questioning Israel. And that was the source of his complaint. It was the fact that it was affecting his bank account. It was affecting the funding for his organization. And that just, goes to show you that, if you adopt talking points that are sympathetic, the capitalist, we're living in the political economy of capitalism. If you take on positions that are sympathetic to those in power, you will, and you're good at it. You have to be talented, sure. These two are very talented at what they do. It's not taking away from any skill that they might use, but that's the reason that they're able to grow and become such big voices.
It's meaningful. You can't, if everything is inherited, then there's no hope for the continuation of America. Mm-hmm. Do you see that?
Yeah, I don't think it's genetically inherited. And what you're saying about putting aside the tribal interest for the corporate interest, that's absolutely the case. And that's the only way the country's going to stay together.
Exactly. That's my concern.
And I absolutely agree with you. I would say, though, that
putting aside the tribal interest for the corporate interest, we have to put aside the tribal interest in order to serve the corporate interest. Is that what he's saying? Let's go back about 30 seconds.
Yeah, I don't think it's genetically inherited. And what you're saying,
he doesn't think Jewishness is genetically inherited, but his whole platform is that Jews are a race and there's a Jewishness to people.
About putting aside the tribal interest for the corporate interest, that's absolutely the case. And that's the only way the country's going to stay together.
Exactly. That's my concern.
And I absolutely agree with you. I would say, though, that the main challenge to that, a big challenge to that, is organized Jewry in America. I don't think Bill Ackman is capable of that. I don't think Sheldon Adelson is capable of that. I don't think Yoram Hazony is capable of that, for that matter. And many other, on the right and the left. And I see it.
Said Jewry.
See Jewishness as the common denominator. And you're right. It's not all Jewish people feel the same way. No one would say that, but that does seem to be the common denominator. And I just feel like it needs to be called out.
He's saying that not everybody who's Jewish obviously is part of the problem, but it does seem to be the common denominator. Well, you just admit it. You just contradicted yourself, Nick. If it was the common denominator, then there wouldn't be any Jews that are anti-Zionist. The common denominator is capitalism. The common denominator, I would love to talk about the common denominator. The common denominator is the economy, and it's the class antagonism. The common denominator is 1% versus 99%. The common denominator is the principal contradiction. When he says common denominator, he should just say the principal contradiction.
Not explicitly, and I like what you said. If the other day, if you're serving in another country's military or have dual citizenship, you really can't be a part of this project.
Well, that's just and that's an easy one, but I am much more comfortable as a Christian and an American keeping it on that level because
Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe to the page to help it grow. And if you'd like to support my work, join my Patreon for exclusive content.